deem it a precious privilege to introduce our distinguished chief guest to the gathering. Sri Raman Venkat completed his undergraduate in mechanical engineering from PSG College of Technology in the year 1981. He also completed his master's in business administration finance from the University of California in 1995. He currently serves as the chief executive officer of an employee-owned company, LeFiell Manufacturing Company, Santa Fe Springs, California, USA. It is recognized as the world's innovative leader in manufacturing of precious tubular parts and assemblies, primarily for commercial aircraft, space, defense, and industrial markets. He holds the overall responsibility for strategic direction of the company, thereby enhancing the shareholder value. He successfully navigated the company through the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic without any revenue loss and improved the profitability of the company. He is the CEO with a broad experience in finance, information systems, mechanical engineering in aerospace and defense industry, dedicated to promoting employee ownership in small to mid-sized companies. He also serves as one of the board members reporting to the board of directors on a quarterly basis on the aspects of the company, including the strategic plan, risk management, cybersecurity, merger and acquisition, financials and employee stock ownership plan. He also interfaces with the legal counsel on the different aspects of the company. He currently serves as the board member for the following companies: Strand Products Santa Barbara, Mountain Hardware and Sports Truckee, and Performance Composites Compton, California. His previous work experiences include Complete Business Solutions, Tata Unisys Limited, and Ashok Leyland, Chennai. He has also served as president, the first vice president, and member of the steering committee that coordinates all the activities relating to the education and lobbying efforts under the California States chapter of the ESOP Association. Welcome, sir. We are privileged and delighted to have such an eminent personality amongst us for our annual day function.
Thank you, ma'am. We now invite our renowned chief guest, Sri Raman Venkat, to address the virtual gathering.
Okay, just have to make sure that I get all the technology working first. Okay, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
Okay, and can you see my screen as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So first and foremost, I do want to thank the faculty, the staff, the managing trustee, Gopal Krishnan, the principal, Dr. Chandramohan, and everybody present there for giving me this opportunity to talk to, the students and everybody present there. First and foremost, I do want to acknowledge the difficult time India has gone through or going through, and also the city of Coimbatore as well. And all our thoughts and prayers are with all the families that are in Coimbatore, and hope you all are safe during this pandemic. So again, I'm sitting about 15,000 miles away, 15,000 kilometers away in a small town called San Clemente, south of Los Angeles. And, who would have thought that, the possibilities of technology, when we graduated in 1981. Just as a, what some of you students may not even know what these are. Back in 1981, those of us in mechanical engineering were working with mini drafters, T-squares, protractors, compass, and such instruments. And, that's what technology was back then. And you can imagine, where technology is today after 40 plus years. So before I move on a little bit, I do want to acknowledge, PSG Tech, was one of the 7 or 8 engineering colleges back then in Tamil Nadu. And Coimbatore had the privilege of having 3 of them, PSG Tech, CIT, and GCT back then. And you can see the facades of PSG Tech, back then. And I was in the hostel, so you can see, our famous PSG Tech hostel blocks as well. One of the things I do want to, bring up and give, some glory to is the ancestors of the PSG and Sons charities. For those of us who didn't know, back in 1926, the PSG family, or there were 4 brothers, and I believe they created this trust. The most important part that is fascinating, when I look back at it, there were 4 brothers, but they took the ancestral properties and divided them into 5. The 5th part going to the charity and the trust that has flourished so well. And I think, Mr. Gopalakrishnan is coming down, the traditions and the ancestors in managing the trust and, bringing a lot of glory to the city of Coimbatore. I came through the portals of PSG Tech, like a lot of my friends back in 81. And, we were very blessed. And I think the entire city of Coimbatore and the entire nation of India, is thankful to the PSG family for making Coimbatore as one of the revered places for education. Just moving a little forward, it's almost 40 years, since I graduated. And now I'm like they said, thanks for the kind words. This gives a little perspective of what we do. We are one of the premier tubular structures in terms of design and manufacturing for the aerospace. And, we've been around since 1980. So we go about 90 plus years of being in business. And we specialize in metal forming. And you can see some of the processes that we specialize in. And we also do machining, and we have our own heat treat, NDT, CMM inspection, etc. And like they said, we serve, the commercial aircraft, the defense and space programs. And, we interface on a regular basis. Our customers are Boeing, Pratt Whitney, Airbus, NASA, and a lot of overseas customers as well. And as you can see, we are located very close to Los Angeles, in terms of our location. I'm not going to go through this whole chart, but you can kind of get a feel for where our parts go. You can imagine anything that's tubular in nature is where our core competency is, and we've been, in the leading edge of technology in terms of, these kinds of parts on the commercial aircraft and helicopter side. And also on the other side, our passion is space. And we've been involved in the space industry since the Apollo days, or even a little before that. We make the liquid, thrust chamber coolant tubes that go on the launch stage engines and also the second stage engines. And you can see some of them. Not only we serve the US space program, but we also service the Japanese space program for their H2 and H3 rockets. So, as someone mentioned, over the years, my passion has been, aerospace and employee ownership. And, I think employee ownership is for another meeting and another day. And this is where, my beginnings were. And, like I said, I started in Ashok Leyland as a graduate engineer trainee. And I can tell you that was one of the most gratifying experiences, that set me up for what my career was. And, for those kids who are listening, if I were to tell you that my first salary in India in Ashok Leyland was 900 rupees a month. So I don't know what 900 rupees gets these days, but That's what it was back in 1981, when we graduated. So, one of the things that, I go a long way back with your principal and my classmate, um, uh, Dr. Chandramohan, and he called me up and he said, hey, would you be able to talk a little bit on the annual day? And I said, sure, it's a privilege and honor to do it. And so I was kind of sitting down and I was thinking about what is it that I can talk to, the students there. And so I had to go back about 40 years, and I told myself, what was I, was I prepared to get into the real world when I got out of PSG Tech with all my great formulas and everything from strength of materials to all the mechanical engineering stuff that, we were taught, in the college. But then I realized that when I got into, the workforce, I was actually a little bit uncomfortable. So I told myself, maybe, I was an uncomfortable engineer for a long time. And so I went back and looked at some of the things that I think, as students that are coming out of the colleges, I put together a couple of slides that I think hopefully helps in terms of, being prepared to get into the workforce, no matter where you are. And as you can see, we engineers are the most logical people in the entire world. And I'm pretty sure, all of us will agree that when we say that an optimist looks at the glass as half full, the pessimist looks at it as half empty, but we engineers are the realists. The glass is twice as required size. So, we've always been the logical people, guiding this world. So the first and foremost thing I probably want to speak about is people skills, and I'm reasonably sure that a lot of my friends who, we always talk about is, engineers are very logical people, but they don't have people skills. And again, the first three are, I think, the ones that you are going to experience, when you come on board to any company these days. Pretty much all companies are global now, no matter where you're working from. So collaboration and teamwork is the first order of business, I think, no matter where you are. We have customers in Japan, we have customers in Germany, we have customers in Italy, and we have customers in Poland. So one of the things, as I think, you start working in this teaming environment, is you have to learn a little bit about, some of the things about people. And I think it goes a long way knowing about their culture, some of the differences between, even though we all speak English, the accents are a little different. So, I think learning a little bit to tolerate such things, goes a long way, as part of your people skills. And also every culture is different as well. So when you do travel, take some time to learn about the country and learn to appreciate their culture too. I think it goes a long way, when you're dealing with these people. When you go to Italy, Italy is one of the most laid back countries that you can do business with. It's always like, anything goes, right? Whereas when you're dealing with the Germans, everything is precise. When you're dealing with the Japanese, it's almost like you have to learn that when they say yes, took me a long time to understand. When they say yes, it does not mean they agree with you. They will only say, yes, I understood what you just told me. That's all it is. So these are some things that I think, all the kids are going to get thrown into in today's world, of the global environment, collaboration and teamwork. The second part, I'm reasonably sure is going to come as you start managing people in your careers. And the most important part about, what I've learned about managing people is, you're trying to motivate them for performance. That's your job, as, in the professional world. And, there is no magic bullet. Everyone has, tons of seminars on motivation, right? So, everyone, has a magic bullet, but the one thing that I can tell you in my experience you have to strike a balance between being compassionate and firm. What I mean by that is you have to make that human connection. Just to give you an example, we have a lot of, we have some Chinese, we got some Koreans, we have some Mexican people working in our facility. So, when I walk around, you have to be, when I say being compassionate, I look up and I say, okay, the Chinese New Year is on February 12th of this year. And the Chinese, it's the year of the ox. So these are things that, you go out of your way, learn a little bit. And when you walk by, you just tell them, hey, Happy New Year. And, ask them, hey, what does this ox symbolize? It relates, you relate to them and you create a personal connection. We have, very similarly, we have, Mexican people, and I can tell you the Mexicans are mad about soccer. So when you know that their national team is playing, a soccer match, the next day you walk by or the previous day and say, hey, good luck to you guys, it means the world to them. When I say making a human connection, those are the things that goes a little bit outside and being compassionate. And I also believe that when you start working with people, asking them about their families goes a long way. So, when I say people skills, it's a combination of both, as you start to, work and manage people, they're all, everybody has to come to work to make a living, but you got to make it pleasant experience for them, when they come to the facility. So, I hope, all of you are successful in that area. The next one, I'm going to probably mention it, is the communication skills. And, this is, everyone says that, engineers are poor in communication. They know numbers, they know formulas, but, they are not very good communicators. And, I think, a lot of it is, I've learned that we have to slow down and come down to the level of the people you are talking to. One of the things that I learned early on is we have to first listen, to the other person before you speak. How many times, I've caught myself before the person is halfway through, I'm already, ready to say something to the other person. I'm formulating my answer to that person. So, I think listening, is an art. And I think that's one of the first things that I think we all have to develop, as you get into the workforce. The other thing I think is, getting comfortable in a group setting, presentation skills, and also, public speaking a little bit. So, these three kind of go together. And I can tell you when I graduated, from PSG Tech, it was not like, I was a very professional speaker in front of people. I had the fear of public speaking, but, we had some of my friends in class who were absolutely great at it. I had a friend called Dasgupta and, Raja Peter. These were guys who were, natural. It's almost, I used to say that these guys can go sell oil to the Arabs in Saudi Arabia. That's how smooth talkers these guys were. But then, I realized that, it just only takes some practice. And I see that, the PSG Tech has, the Toastmasters, which is a great forum to start, getting in front of small groups and, start your ability in that area. One of the other things that I found, for engineers that is very comforting is, my suggestion is get up in front of a group and do some diagrams, do some flow charting, because these are, trust me, I think engineers are the best at doing those things. So start in those kinds of ways, and then, pretty soon, you can find yourself addressing, we don't have to be politicians, but, you'll get very comfortable talking in front of people. And as you can see, communication skills for an engineer is, kind of a career escalator. And the other part is, don't be, scared about expressing yourself. In today's world, the diversity of thoughts is what every company is looking for. One of the interesting anecdotes I was listening to is, if you get a chance, if you go back and look at the on the BBC website, there is a very interesting article and a podcast. It says, was the FBI too white to spot the 9/11 clues. It talks about how the FBI was dominated by white males and they had only one way of thinking and they missed some subtle clues. It's a very interesting, topic and, podcast that you should listen to. So again, diversity of thoughts is something that I think every company is looking for. And, we all approach things in different ways. And that's what brings solutions and innovative things to the table. So to me, that is, this is probably one of the things that, between the people skills and communication skills, I think, engineers need to get comfortable, as you get into the workforce. This third one is, my pet peeve, as I started working, I was an engineer. So everything to me was black and white. There was nothing gray. You give me a formula, you give me all the inputs, I'll give you all the outputs. And don't make me assume a lot of things, right? So that's the way a lot of engineers were taught. And, then when I started dealing in finance and, then you realize life is not all black and white. The more you learn to deal with the gray area, the more successful you are going to be. And that, brings you into the risk management. And, you have to keep the customer engaged. One of the things I tell, our engineers is when we get a proposal, we get a sketch and we say, they say, can you design something for us? And, I tell our engineers, don't keep asking too many questions. The customer is coming to you because they are treating you as the expert. So it's okay, make some assumptions and, get a solution in front of the customer. The key, as a lot of you will learn, is keeping the customer engaged. In today's world, the customer has a lot of options. So, the silence that goes on between you and the customer, I can promise you the customer has gone somewhere else. So again, learning to deal with the gray area, make assumptions, but let the customer know, what your assumptions are. So again, as you get into the real world, I think learning to deal with uncertainty is going to be the key and dealing with the risk. So that is something that I think a lot of the schools are teaching now. Again, I'm going back 30, 40 years where we didn't have a lot of exposure to the risk side of things. But I think the schools are doing a really good job now, in these areas, of risk management. The next one, is networking. When I say networking, it's not just collecting business cards. The key is, develop some interest outside your technical body of knowledge. Many a time, you walk into, some reception or a business event and you see 200 people in that room. And, when you're not comfortable, the first thing I used to do is my eyes go looking for, where are my friends? Where are the people who I know? I want to go straight to them, even before I get a drink in my hand. That's this lack of confidence and, not knowing what to talk to people, etc. But I think the more interest you develop outside your technical body of knowledge, you will find that those are very easy ways to connect with people. It could be sports, it could be stocks or bonds or investing, or it could be as simple as gardening. I've seen history. There are tremendous interests that people have. And a lot of times people don't want to talk, the same thing they do at work when they meet people outside. So the more interest you develop, whether it's through reading or whatever you do, I think that's what is going to connect you to people, in your later life. And, the other thing I always tell, kids in college is as much as possible, do some internships, there are tremendous companies in Coimbatore. I did one in a foundry, I think when I was in my fourth year. We were in a 5-year school back then. So I did one in a foundry back then in Coimbatore. Coimbatore is very blessed with, the tremendous industry, unlike, a lot of other cities. And one of the best things that happened to us at PSG Tech was the Industrial Institute that was attached to it. And those of us in mechanical engineering, that was a huge blessing, when we went out to the real world and we told them, oh yeah, we've seen gear hobbing machines, or we've seen lathes. Oh, people were surprised that we were able to see such things, even in our college days. The other one I do emphasize too is, do some volunteer work. And I think give back to the community, some organizations, NGOs. And again, these are all places where you will meet people and you can develop your network. The last but not the least is, stay in touch. And honestly, I think the kids today have a tremendous, a huge leg up in coming to this part of staying in touch. Back then, we had to write letters and expensive phone calls, but now I think a simple text and social media is an unbelievable tool, I think we have today, to stay in touch. So that's another area I think that, the kids or students should get very comfortable, as you start working and launching your career. I think, Mr. Mohan Ram touched on this, is lifelong learning. To me, when you look at, we came out of, mechanical engineering, but very soon you realize that, in the real world, you're not dealing with just mechanical engineering concepts. There is a tremendous amount of integration of disciplines, as you see in that set diagram. Everything, today is integrated. You see IoTs just seeping into every aspect. You think we are doing metal forming, and we were doing a joint venture, and we were talking to a company, and they wanted to insert, sensors, that can do some, real-time fatigue analysis or predictability analysis in our metal tubes. And some of them are, very highly stress-loaded struts that hold the engine on the wing on the commercial aircraft. So, all disciplines are intersecting these days. So again, the more you get educated, even if it's the basic level, it helps you, as part of your lifelong learning process. It keeps you abreast of development too. In your own field, things move so fast, in today's world. When you look at, I was blessed to be able to keep this lifelong learning going, whether it's a certificate program. There are a lot of opportunities today in schools that are available for, working adults, evening programs, etc. To me, this is one of the things that's going to keep you young as well. Otherwise, very soon you're going to find yourself a little outdated, in your own field if you're not abreast of, technology and the disciplines that are surrounding, your area. I cannot emphasize this, enough, in terms of, lifelong learning. The other one that, at least a lot of us coming out in the 80s was, we had no exposure to economics, money aspect of things. And this was one of the things that really fascinated me, when I left, engineering, and prompted me to take, something in finance. But, I can tell you, today, what you have available online is unbelievable. Whether it's stocks, bonds, learning about companies, economics, the micro or macro, a lot of tools are available. But this is one aspect I think, each of you needs to get comfortable, as you start your career, and, you're going to, any which way you turn, you're going to see money. And the other part of, the money aspect, not just money, is, the whole idea of cost. I had no idea when I left, mechanical engineering, the idea about cost. Then when you start working in a real, life environment, in companies, it's all about cost and affordability of the customer. So the more you learn about, money, time value of money, and all those things, it's going to not only pay dividends personally, but I think it's going to help you, move around in the company to different disciplines. I was able to go from, being an engineer, from being an IT person to a finance and, eventually to be where I am. But, without my finance background, it would have been very hard, to be where I am today. So again, if you get a chance, get a, heads up on this money aspect of things and, the cost aspect of products. So to me, this is a very important area for engineers, especially if you are uncomfortable with this, going forward. This is actually a tough one for me to speak about because, work-life balance is easy to talk about, but it's very hard to achieve, especially in today's world. Back in 1981, when I started in Ashok Leyland, we finished our work and the buses dropped us, wherever we lived, and that's all it is. We didn't have a laptop, we didn't have a cell phone, to attend to company matters, when we left the company. But the world has changed. Today, especially with this global, collaboration that's going on, it is really hard for your generation to maintain this work-life balance. But it is very important to find that work-life balance. It's important when you look at the picture below, it shows a laptop on the work side, but I can promise you the laptop is on both sides, right? And that's what makes it really difficult to achieve, this work-life balance, especially for women, when they have to take care of family, the kids, and on top of it, I'm sure my wife will say she has to take care of the husband too, right? So, when you put all those things together, it is hard, but I think you have to recognize it. And each one will have to find a way to, get that work-life balance. And, whatever way you do it, again, when you talk about stress, stress never goes away. It's all about how you deal with the stress. And, I heard Mr. Mohan Ram talk about, what is the purpose of life? Find that inner thing, right? Whether it's yoga, walking, whatever you do, something that takes your mind off work so that, you can get a work-life balance. I know it is hard. Like I say, I myself struggle with it. My wife gets very annoyed when I come back home and my phone dings, at 9 p.m. and I go and pick up the phone and look at the email. We are all in the same boat in a way, but, I think the sooner we recognize and try to find a solution, I think it is going to be good for, family life and, a person as a whole, going forward. Otherwise, I think the youngsters of today can easily get burnt out, within a few years. So, pay a lot of attention to this work-life balance so that, you have it's all not work. So that is one area where I would definitely mention, to pay attention. This next one is about change. And again, as you start working and, going deeper in your career, you're going to realize that, change is the only constant thing, right? Whether you're in organizations, they change structures, your industry changes, there is disruption in the industry. So, it's a never ending thing. So the best thing you can do is, like it says, embrace it, don't avoid it. I went from being an engineer to an IT person to a finance person. So I had to embrace change along the way. Did I find it a little uncomfortable? Definitely, but the more you embrace it, don't avoid it. And also it gives you a chance. You always tell yourself, it's a second chance to excel at something. It's a chance to get better at something else. And so you can constantly reinvent yourself. And this is one of my best slides that I always think about, when it says, a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. There is so much power in that statement when you look at it and you think through it. So change is not bad at all. Change brings in opportunities. And And you can see below, a quote from Winston Churchill that says, to improve is to change, but, to be perfect, you have to change often. So I think, change is one constant that is going to be there in your life, all through. So, the quicker you learn to accept it, I think the better you are and you will be. I'm pretty much down to the last slide in a way. And, this last one is a little bit very soft, and it's a personality trait. It's about character and reputation. And again, as you all, get out of school in a couple of years or 3 years, some of you will go on to do masters, PhDs, but a lot of you will start, working. And you'll soon realize that the industry you are in, you'll end up being in some niche industry where it's a small circle of people. And you're going to find that, people know each other. And, your reputation within a few years will precede you. And so, no matter what you do, like it says, if you take care of your character, your reputation will take care of itself. And, it's very important in, when you have 30, 40 years of working life, you want to create a good reputation in the industry you are working in. And especially today for the youngsters, your reputation is not just, who you work with or you interface with. It's your Facebook, it's your Twitter post, all these things make up, your character, your reputation along the way. And, fortunately for us, at least the first 10, 15 years, we didn't have all these distractions. So, we were fortunate that way, but at the same time, these tools are a great way to, take advantage of the opportunities you have, with you. So again, coming towards the end, this is my last slide. So the best thing I was thinking is, I know I started out by saying, it's an uncomfortable engineer, but in the end, the more you get comfortable being uncomfortable, you are going to be very successful, in your life. As they say, the road to success is always under construction, which means, there is something or the other going on in terms of change. And sometimes the road less traveled is traveled less for a reason. And so don't hesitate to take it. And I can honestly tell you that you guys are all studying in one of the great institutions, and, with the great faculty, with the backing and of the PSG family. I think you guys are, in great hands. And when I look at this generation that is coming up, I can say with a high degree of confidence that the world is in, good hands, and we are leaving it to a good generation of students, kids. And with that, I would like to wish good luck to each and every one of you. Wish you the very best in your future endeavors, and God bless and thank you.